So our speaker today is Julija Andric, and I'm going to keep this introduction very short because she's here to talk about her life and her story. That she was a Rotary Youth Exchange student. She joined us in Columbus in 2012 and 2013. She's originally from Croatia. She's here to share her experience with Youth Exchange and how it has impacted her life. She is currently in a PhD program in Luxembourg, and she's passionate about business and education. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice being back in the Rotary community. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for inviting me today. Should I share my screen? That's how I should share? Okay. All right, let me do that first then, because I prepared a little presentation that's been bringing back all the emotions. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, when I was looking for pictures to put in my presentation and just thinking, and it's brought back so many amazing memories that really reminded me of how much my exchange year changed my life and how much it was a path change in my life 8 years after. So my name is Julija Andric. That's the long version of Julia. Julia is the American version, or Jules. And I really enjoyed that nickname from all my host families. But let me start introducing my exchange year really shortly. I was a Rotary Youth Exchange outbound student in 2012, 2013. So it's been almost 8 years now. And this is me actually giving a speech long before COVID times in a district conference. It was a speech that marked my life in such a special way that I cannot even describe in words. I immediately get emotional because I had people that believed that I could do this speech and go up there. I was 15 at times. So I was 15 years old when I was going on my exchange. So there I was, the 15-year-old girl who had a dream to go to the United States and live the American life, be with the culture itself. So when I was walking down that stage, I knew that I could do anything I wanted. I had the courage, I had the confidence, and I knew that if I surround myself with people that believe in me, I would be able to do anything that I imagined, because that's how I felt in that very moment. And every time I had a hard situation or I needed to brag about myself, I would pull up the video and be like, this is, because it's on YouTube, so you can check it out. But I always, so all the views on it, those are probably my views. Because I always go back and I'm so happy to remind myself of the great achievements that I had in that year. And so thanks once again. And the last sentence of that speech was "Thank you, Rotary." So I want to say it again. Thank you, Rotary. Where I've been from my 24 years, I just want to give you a short introduction of who I really am and what I do in my life currently. I was born in Germany, Munich, in 1996. My parents are originally from Croatia, but because of the whole situation of Croatia separating from Yugoslavia, war was going on. My parents were living in Germany at that time, and I was very lucky and fortunate to speak another language. And we were all living in Germany until 2008. After which my parents finally decided to move back to Croatia. In 2008, we had the world economic crisis, so it was a very tough time to move. I'm coming from a working class family. I have two brothers, an older and a younger brother, and my brother and I were the first ones to go to college and to finish college. So it was a big step for my family when I came to them and I said, I want to go to the United States. And they looked at me and they said, what do you mean? How do you want to do that? And I said, well, my brother at that time heard about Rotary, and we had no idea. I had no idea what Rotary was. My parents didn't know. We didn't have any friends who were Rotarians. So it was just a far concept in our heads. We didn't know what it was about. But my brother came home and he said, well, these guys came in. They said, it's great. You can go to anywhere you want and you can educate yourself. So I immediately was like, I want to go too. And I was only 14 at the time. So when I applied in my district, they said, I mean, Julia, we understand that you really want to go, but you need to wait for another year, at least another year. So I did. And my brother went that year. I was very jealous, but excited for him. He went to West Virginia, actually, ended up finishing graduating college there. He stayed in the United States, got a full scholarship to a university. So that went well for him. But the next year, I finally got to go on my exchange to Ohio, Columbus. And I'll talk more about my exchange in just a bit, but I want to move forward to when my exchange ended. I came home and I was frustrated because I fell in love with the American education. I was fortunate to go, I was going to Columbus School for Girls, CSG. I had professors that actually cared about me, who cared for me to improve the skills that I was already good at, to improve the skills that I was not good at. And I came back home and I was so frustrated because the educational system in Croatia was very old-fashioned from the communist regime. Nothing changed. And at that time, I didn't know these facts. I just knew that it wasn't feeling the same way I felt in the United States. So when I came back home, one of the things that we did was I was the founder of Rotaract. Of course, the whole Rotary concept at that point in life was part of my life completely. And I came home and I said, we need to start doing things. We need to found a Rotaract club for young adults. So right now we have already over 30 members. We've did so many charity work, and yeah, it's been very successful. And after that, I was lucky enough to have a branch campus from a branch university of RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology in Zagreb. So I was able to get an American education living home, which was very nice. And I finished international business, fell in love with business, and I was working a lot of internships in marketing as well, communications, just speaking English, speaking German, partially Russian. It was very helpful in that region. So I was doing all of these internships. I even came back to Ohio in 2017 and worked for Ohio Health and their sponsorship team. And so there I was, graduated from university. I was sitting in my office. I already had a corporate job and sitting in a very nice, fancy office. And I looked around and I asked myself, who do you want to be in 10 years from these people who are surrounded? And I couldn't find anyone. I couldn't find an idol. I couldn't find someone who was inspiring me in that way where I would say, that's who I want to be. Like I met people on my exchange. And I realized that even though I did everything right, I was in the wrong place. I finished university. I was working all these internships to get to this one best corporation. And there I was, and I wasn't feeling like I was at the right place. So I realized I have to sit down and really reflect and see, what do you want to do, Julia? Where do you really see yourself? So I realized I wanted to be like my professor. I had a couple of professors that I wanted to be like, but I fell in love with their jobs and how they educate, how they make an impact, how they pass on knowledge, how they learn all the time. So I am enrolled into a master's program in international education in Spain. I was very frustrated that I had to learn another language because I thought I was done. I thought, I don't need to learn anything, any more languages. But there I was in Spain, learning Spanish. And after I graduated that, I want more. I realized that I really need to enroll into a doctorate program to be able to teach business at university level, to be able to teach these entrepreneurship courses that really, what I was passionate about. So there I was, I enrolled into the DBA program in Luxembourg, also started lecturing a marketing management course at freshman level. And they actually have a sponsorship program for students from developing countries. So my students are actually students from Africa, Bangladesh, Pakistan, from all over the world. So they're, especially now with they only have to have ICT devices. So it's very made available for the organizations in the trenches. So right now I'm also the sponsorship coordinator. So I coordinate the organizations in those places and really trying to get education to the places where education is not possible. to go back to my exchange year, it takes courage to grow up and become who you really are. And that's how the exchange shaped me into the person who I am today. Because essentially, I was just a little kid. I was a little girl who was 15 years old and had these imaginations. I've never flown before. I've never been on an airplane. So just coming to the United States was, to me, just I needed 2 weeks to recover from that, because everything was so new to me. And I remember when Kathy Goddardam, she picked me up from the airport, and I thought that everything looked different. I thought that trees looked different. There were, street lights hanging across the street. I remember walking in the car and thinking, this is going to be the best year of my life. And it certainly was. It was the hardest and the best year. So let me share some pictures. This was me with my best friend Helga from Brazil. We are very close. We visited each other multiple times. And this is me in my uniform. When you would have asked me when I was 14, I would have said, the only thing I want is go to a public high school in the United States, to have the lockers, to have the whole high school experience. And so when I went to Ohio and I realized that I was going to an all-girls private school, it was very shocking at the beginning. But I had such an amazing experience with the teacher-student approach, and that's actually where my passion for education started. Just at that time, I didn't realize that. And here are a couple of pictures that I chose from. It was very hard to choose which ones, but this one I chose because this is my Spanish professor, who still has a Croatian flag in his classroom. And he knew how homesick I was sometimes, so he was always in his Spanish class letting me listen to Croatian music. And I actually contacted him 7 years later saying, you know what, I wish I was learning some Spanish in your class, because I actually needed it at that point. And we were laughing. My flag is still in his classroom. He said, even if when he retires, he'll write something down to never, leave it. So it definitely made some impact there as well. These are my friends who all of them seen after my exchange. Most of them are in Europe, so it was very easy to travel and to see them again. I don't have to tell you the special bond we have, obviously, from the exchange, even though we're completely different people doing completely different things. But the exchange really brought us together, and we always talk to each other and go back in time. This is actually our Rotaract club in Zagreb. This is when we were in Istanbul for a conference. So we're very active in all kinds of ways in Rotaract in Zagreb. And this was when my host mom surprised me with bringing my brother from West Virginia after a whole year to visit me. I will I get all emotional when I think about it. Because back in the days, we didn't really have smartphones. I know some people had iPhone 4s, but I had like a flip phone that Kathy gave me, so there wasn't really an opportunity to do WhatsApp and to communicate that much. We had Skype, so we would be communicating with I would communicate with my parents once a week maximum, just saying, hey, I'm alive, I'm good, bye. And that was it. But my brother and I had this special connection. And so my host mom knew about that, obviously. And she, even though financially it was impossible for him to travel because it was just rough at that time, she paid for everything and she made him come from West Virginia, which seems like a short trip. But back then it seemed like far away for us. So I was in school sitting in my classroom and someone came and they said, your brother is waiting outside. So I ran out to see him. I had 3 host families, and I had very different experiences with all 3 of them. I had a very unique experience with my 3rd family that I will come back to later. But for example, my 2nd family, they were Jewish. So I was living with them in Christmas time and we were celebrating Hanukkah, which also has taught me so much of a literal life experience. I don't know how many times I have used this knowledge from living with them in all kinds of conversations where I would have these great facts about some cultural thing in the Jewish culture. Just everything about that was such an educational growth for me. And so my 3rd host family, that's a very, very special story. And I think this is where this was like, I don't know how to say it, but it was the perfect match. My 3rd family was the perfect match. They're my 2nd mom and my 2nd dad. This is a picture that was taken 2 years ago. We see each other 2 to 3 times a year. We communicate every day. It's crazy. I don't know anyone who had this connection with their host families, but literally they came to my brother's wedding. Our families go to family trips together. I mean, this person is literally my second mom. All the tough moments I had in life, I could always count on 2 moms and 2 dads, depending on their skills, you know, who you contact. But it was such a blessing for me. So having 2 brothers, and eventually having 2 sisters, because they had two daughters. So I had 2 sisters, and we've been through all the heartbreaks of boyfriends and everything together throughout the years. And actually I'm coming to Ohio in June, so I'm really excited to finally be able to see them. Due to COVID, it took some longer time, but hopefully it will work out now. And so that's my third family. And here's some funny photos that I also wanted to share, because I remember a couple of things that I thought were very odd to me culturally. For example, eating food in your car. To me, that was very strange. I'm like, in my culture, it's you sit down. You would never, you know, put your coffee in a mug and take it with you. It's like, why don't you take your time, sit down, and have the coffee? Well, guess what I'm doing now? I even have a Yeti to be part of the club. I definitely took the best of both. I took everything that I loved about the American culture in the end. At the beginning, they were maybe weird to me, but later on they became partially who I am today. So eating food in the car, drinking my coffee from the cup, I remember that my grandma, when I came back, I would have wet hair because that was normal. You know, sometimes you have little wet hair and you go to school, and that's completely normal until the air dries. And to me, that to my grandma was like, you know, she thought I completely lost my mind walking around with wet hair. She thought that I was going to get some disease. And actually in Croatia, there is a saying, if you even leave the house with a little wet hair, you're probably going to die from headache. That's kind of the culture where we are. So when I came back, my grandma could never deal with that one. Going to prom, also such a dream come true, because that's what we see in movies, that's what we see in TV shows. So being able to do that was just, and even now when I talk about my exchange, people don't ask because they know I when I start talking, I cannot stop. So when eventually someone asks me, the first question is, did you go to prom? And of course I did on multiple proms. So that sticks around always. Here also a couple of pictures. Ohio State, I am huge fan. I love sports. Also fell in love with sports in the United States, in Ohio. And such a special connection that I have there.
After the beep, and we will return your call as soon as possible. Thank you.
So my never miss points that I have and that I've learned from in my exchange was that, and never miss an opportunity to think outside the box. Because if I didn't sit down when I was in that corporate office, I would have never gotten the opportunity to actually reflect on myself. And this is something I most certainly learned on my exchange, because I had to do it all the time. First of all, I was 15. I was still growing up. I was trying to find who I am. So thinking outside of the box was everyday life on exchange. I remember walking out the bedroom, and I wasn't, in the first morning when I woke up after the tremendous long air flight, I could not open the door because the door knobs were different. So we only have these ones, but you guys have the ones that twist. So I literally could not even leave the room, and it was such a struggle. And I remember thinking, if I cannot even open the door, how will I be able to communicate with people, to understand what they're saying, and like all these things. So the second thing that I realized was an opportunity to choose the roads that make you grow, because sometimes the roads that make you grow are harder, but in so many senses are much rewarding in the end. And I remember thinking at one point that I can't make an impact because I'm just one person. But being a professor and being an educator, I realized that I can make an impact every single day I walk into that classroom. I make an impact with them, with their whole families, because these guys that I teach, they live in these rural areas, and they come with a tie that they borrowed from some relative, because they're getting an education. And that's exactly how I felt when I got the opportunity to go to the United States. And so I, in that sense, have a feeling that I can bring something back and give something back. And the last thing is an opportunity to meet someone new. And that's the definition of the exchange. You're always meeting new people, because in the end, it's, people say the harsh way to say it is networking. Maybe in some business corporate setting, yes, but I'm so close to everyone I've met on my exchange. I'm truly thankful that I've met them, because I've learned from them, and if I learn from them, maybe they've learned from me too. So it's a win-win situation for all of us. So once again, as I said in the beginning of this presentation, and as I said in the speech that I was giving when I was 15, 8 years ago, thank you, Rotary.
Thanks, Julia. So we'll open it up to questions. It looked like somebody, Rick Studer had a question. Was English required in the various schools that you attended? Was English required?
No, it was not, because we live really close to Germany. So, well, German and English are like primary languages to learn. But when I came to Croatia, in Germany, I didn't learn English. I went to first and second grade in Germany. And so when we moved to Croatia, I did not immediately enroll into English, because I was still struggling with Croatian, because I was growing up speaking German. So my parents, I think I enrolled in 5th grade in English.
So how many languages do you speak now?
Well, I'm at Spanish, English, Croatian, and then all the various forms of Croatian, Bosnian, Serbian, all of those languages, Slovenian, and then partially Russian, and did I say in German? Yeah.
Julia, to give people a perspective of, let's just say how young and inexperienced you were, I heard that you almost missed your plane here for exchange. Is that true?
I did. Can you imagine that exchange that I was dreaming about? And I almost missed it. I got sick on my way there. So I got stuck in Boston, and I lost my passport because I was sick in the bathroom. And I was laying there for a couple of hours until some people found me, and Kathy was on the phone. I remember she was retelling me this a couple of years later, yelling at them, she needs to get on a plane, get her on a plane. So I can imagine her doing that. So there's at one point of time, I'm in Boston already a couple of hours, just laying next to the toilet, feeling sick and not having my stuff around me, because I don't know if I lost them or someone stole them, but as a matter of fact, at some point, those 2 bodyguards come in and they literally take all my things and drag me to an airplane with lacrosse players that were playing some game in Ohio. So they were basically at the Columbus airport carrying me like this on my exchange.
And for the Rotarians, the lacrosse players were actually coming to Columbus to play Jack Graff's son-in-law in lacrosse. That's how close things are in getting Julia here.
And I remember there were all these people with what's it called, like papers, like cheering and waiting for them, and there was me all sick and crumbled from from my trip.
Hey, Julia, this is John Cates. I don't know if you remember us, but we took you.
Of course I do. Hi.
How are you?
How are you?
It's so good to hear you. So I was just so happy to hear that you're keeping in contact with Helga, because you and Helga were our 2 most outstanding students that year, and we just really loved you guys. So tell us more about your relationship with Helga.
So Helga, you know how she is, always crazy. She's doing great. She's in her 2nd master's program. She visited me twice in Croatia. So because how she's more into traveling, and so she was visiting all the exchange students, and she came to visit me twice. So we had a great time. But she's doing great, and we really do keep in touch.
Great. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too. And I'm hoping to see you in June when I come visit as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, hopefully we're going to have an in-person meeting sometime in June, and maybe you can join us for that. That would be great.
Yes. That would be great.
Any other questions for Julia? Anybody? Tom?
Tom Carlisi, Julia, I put in the chat, first of all, I said thank you for just a truly inspirational message. And I love especially your slide about the never miss points. I think that is wisdom for the ages, for all of us. Thank you for that. And I also put in, and when you come to Columbus, we'd love to have you in our club. That'd be great. And finally, if there's a way we can exchange sometime, I was on an international call yesterday I hosted with Rotaractors and youth Rotary Peace Fellows from Serbia and Montenegro and also the Netherlands. So there's a wonderful European cohort together. If you'd be interested, I'd love to connect you with them and vice versa.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
All the
Of
best.
course. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Tom, I'll share Julia's contact information with you offline.
Be a lot of fun. Thanks.
Hey, Julia, tell us a little bit about your Rotaract Club and kind of some of the service projects you guys have been doing.
Sure. So we actually we have a big thing with a orphanage. It's an orphanage organization for kids from 0 to 18, and they have 10 houses in Croatia, so all over the place, on the coast, in the Zagreb center city, and they're really low key because they want their the kids that come to their house to be able to live normal lives without everyone knowing that they're coming from these houses. So they're not doing any kind of marketing. No one knows about them. So we are kind of helping them, and we're not trying to expose their name. We're trying to do it kind of undercover to keep these kids, because it's a really small community everywhere. We're a really small country. So that's a big thing we're doing. We, of course, due to COVID it kind of all went a little slower, but that's one of our big projects. What else did we have? We're doing a couple of projects for kids that have disabilities. So there's this big center for kids with disabilities in a small town close to Zagreb. So we do go in there, we work with them directly. We're really trying to make an impact with some organizations long term, so kind of sticking with them. That's our, let's say, strategy. Of course, we're doing some smaller ones too, as like giving gifts to families in need for Christmas and Easter. But we're trying to do some projects when we look back in 10 years, we'll say, oh, wow, that's what we did, kind of sticking with them, not just coming and being like, here's the money or here's what we have and then you're out, but trying to stick with them. And that's what we've done with this orphanage, because our members are literally family to these kids. We tutor them, we drive them on sports, and this has been going on since 2014. So we've seen some kids grow up, we've seen some kids leave the orphanage and become adults like us. We drink coffee together, we go to the movies together, and they end up being a couple of years younger than we are.
Very good. Looks like Kathy Gotterdam asked, does the school that, I guess she's asking, the school that you're working at have a scholarship fund for the students from Africa?
That's what it does have a fund. We're trying to kind of work on that as well, because the education that we're doing, so for one student to take the course, which is 13 weeks, is only 10 euros, because we're getting some funds from the university, because they're also offering a master's and a DBA program as well. Also some from the Luxembourg government, but of course, this course costs on average 700 euros. So being able to give this scholarship for 10 euros per student is, for us, seems like an affordable thing, but for them, 10 euros is still a lot of money. Right. So even for the organization, so we work with organizations, and sometimes the organizations give the money for the students, or someone else is funding the students directly, or the students are kind of be able to pay these 10 euros themselves. They have 5 different courses they can choose from, like marketing management, financial accounting, entrepreneurship. And the idea of the whole scholarship program is to not drag them to leave their countries, because that's essentially what everyone is trying to do. Everyone is trying to leave. But the thing is that we're trying to educate them in creating something in the places they live in, to look around and see, okay, from an entrepreneurial perspective, what can we do? How can we earn money? How can we live from where we are right now? So that's what we're trying to impact.
Very good. Dave Pritchard asked, how do we get you to choose the U.S. as your permanent home?
I would not be thinking a lot about that. I would consider it. I definitely would. I still am. I mean, I'm really, really open, and I again am currently in some crossroad moments in my life. So I would be definitely moving if some opportunities arise.
Yeah.
I love living in Ohio, and I would not go anywhere else but Ohio. I love Ohio.
Very good. So when you were here, did you get a chance to do the trip out west and the trip to the East Coast? And
well, that was all my speech was about, because when I came there, just imagining coming there for me was a dream come true. And I did not even consider the possibility to go on those trips because financially I wasn't able to. So I didn't know this, but Kathy applied for me to go on the West Coast trip. And when she told me, I remember it was one of those days where you look back and you think, wow, it was really all worth it. You know, all the bad moments, all the hard moments, all the work. So I was really thankful for that opportunity and being able to travel and see the whole West Coast. So yeah, I was on the West Coast trip, thanks to Rotary, of course.
very good. All right, any other questions, Kathy or anybody else?
I just got a quick one. Since she loves Ohio State University and the Buckeyes, I just want to say OH.
I-O.
And then return with an IO. It's universal. Okay, so.
Chip, not a question, but an observation from a number of decades of Rotary membership. I've discovered an awful lot of Rotarians don't really understand the breadth and depth of Rotary programs. Many Rotarians don't know anything about youth exchange. And so having this young lady here has been a great treat for us. And we thank her for exposing us to all the benefits of youth exchange.
Great, thanks, Nelson. Yeah, it is a fabulous program. I would encourage anybody to, if their kids are their appropriate age or their grandkids are their appropriate age, to take advantage. And or if you have neighbors or friends, it's a wonderful program. Both my kids got to do the short-term exchange and really change their life. And it's, you know, it is amazing what it does for these kids. And we've hosted several kids over the years, and it's just really, really neat experience. If you've never tried it, I would encourage you to try it. Even if you're just one of 3 families, it's a life-changing thing for both sides. All right. Well, Julia, thank you so much. What time is it in Luxembourg?
I'm currently, actually, I have to say that I'm on the coast, so I have a really nice view. I'm on the coastline currently. Gotcha. For Easter break, but it's 7 p.m.
7 p.m. Well, thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing you in June when you come to town.
Well, thank you, and I hope to see you as well, and everyone's healthy.
So we had a nice conversation about exchange. So anyway, well, I want to thank you for joining today. I thought Julia did a wonderful job, and we'll try to continue with this whole Zooming. Obviously, it allows us to bring speakers in from around the world, so we'll continue to try to find unique speakers. But on the 12th, we will have the Ohio State Executive Associate Athletic Director speak. So, and don't forget to mark your calendar for Tuesday, April 27th, for the first in-person meeting at the Boathouse, with more details to come. So everybody have a great week and happy Easter, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.